Hi, and welcome to the third lesson of your ISU for MAP4C1. This is section 8.3. We talk about the cost of owning a home. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to design, justify, and adjust budgets for individuals and families for specific case studies. As well, you should be able to solve problems using technology. Specifically, we'll use spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel, to look at the costs of owning an accommodation. Let's talk about a few of the key concepts you need to understand before owning a home. First thing is that housing prices can vary greatly between communities. So if we look at a home here in Niagara Falls, and then we go to Toronto and look at the exact same home, the price will actually be a lot more expensive in Toronto, just because of its location. So when you're trying to pick out a community, you need to remember this and make sure that you are getting the most value for your money. Second thing you need to remember is that home ownership involves many expenses other than just a mortgage. So things like property tax, utilities, even just the general upkeep and maintenance on your home can start to play into some of your expenses that you're going to experience. Let's look at some of the key terms that we should understand. Budget. A budget is just a summary of a family's income and expenses. So when we look at a budget, we usually do it on a monthly basis because it's important for families to understand how much money is actually coming into the house and how much money is actually being spent so they can live within their means and they don't develop too much debt. Property taxes are taxes that are charged to property owners. So as soon as you become a homeowner, as soon as you purchase property in Ontario, you now have to pay for that property that you have. And that property tax is based on a number of things. Could be the location, could be the size of your property. What it's important to do is to make sure you get an estimate of how much property tax you actually pay for that home so that you can just plan accordingly and you don't build up too much debt again. Let's look at a specific example. James and Cynthia have owned a house for 10 years. They make weekly mortgage payments of $225. Property tax for the year are $3,800. They have a separate saving account for home repairs where they put $200 each month. Utilities cost approximately $575 each month. James works at a seasonal job and earns $15 per hour. His net earnings are 25% less. Cynthia works throughout the year and earns a salary. Her deductions are a little more as she contributes to a benefit plan. Their income information can be found on the spreadsheet provided. So I've put together a spreadsheet that just looks at James and Cynthia so we can start building a budget for them. It's got an expense, an income, and a budget section here. Let's look at part A here. Determine the monthly cost of each expense. So for our mortgage, we know that they're paying $225 each week. So what we want to do is we want to convert this into a monthly amount because our budget is dealing with months. So we're going to take $225, multiply by the number of weeks. So there's 52 weeks in a year. And then we'll get a yearly amount. And after that, we'll divide by 12 to get our monthly amount. Let's use the spreadsheet to help us out here. So with the spreadsheet, what I can do is I could just put an equal sign, and then it'll do the calculation for me. $225 times 52 weeks in the year, and then divide by 12 to get a monthly amount. We can see it's $975. We can actually change this to make it a dollar amount by clicking on this right here, so it looks a little nicer in our spreadsheet. And again, I can drag that down and fill down that column. So the total here is $975. Let's look at property taxes. I think it's for the year, $3,800 for the year. So we're just going to divide by 12 again and let the spreadsheet do the work for us. Equals 3,800. We'll divide by 12 and get the amount that we're going to pay each month in property tax. I believe that was $316.67. The repairs were already given monthly. They're prepared to set aside $200 each month. That doesn't mean they're going to spend $200. It just means that's what they're setting aside. Repairs could be more expensive or less expensive each month. And finally, utilities. They have that at about $575 each month. Part B says, using a spreadsheet, complete an expense and income report, as well as a monthly budget for James and Cynthia. So we've already started using this spreadsheet, so let's go back to it. The repairs were $200 each month, and the utilities were $575 each month. So all we're doing right now is we're just building a little expense report for James and Cynthia, just to look at how much they're actually spending. Again, I can go up and I can use this quick sum button. Hopefully it picks out the right values to add for me, and drag across. So again, it's important to learn the little parts of spreadsheets so that you can be a little more efficient at using them. Let's sum up this. Yep, worked out for us. And hopefully these should all be the exact same amounts, as their expenses are going to be the same each month. I'll add it up for the entire year. And we can find that they're spending about $24,800 just on housing costs each year. So let's put our expenses into our budget here. So it's already set up here. Usually you list the income first when you're dealing with a budget, then the expenses, and then figure out what your net income is, which would be your income minus your expenses, to see if you're actually living within your means. So some of the fixed expenses, we know that a mortgage doesn't change. Property taxes. The repairs, they're prepared to put aside a fixed amount again. But the variable expense here is going to be utilities. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to link this quickly to other sheets, or to other cells, within this spreadsheet. So the mortgage, I'll just put an equal sign there. I'll go over to the expenses, and I'll just click on the January value right there. And after I push enter, you can see that that value is in there. And all that does is when you look up top here, it'll say, go to the expenses sheet, and take cell B5, and put whatever is in there into this cell right here. So let's do the same with our property taxes here. Equals, go to my expense sheet. I'm just going to pick January's values. And you can design spreadsheets a little bit differently each time. Repairs, $200. Design spreadsheets differently to suit your needs. And the utilities, 575. Whoops, forgot to set that up. Back to my budget. Equals. There we go. Must have forgot the equals sign. It's important to remember that. So now what I have is I've got a whole bunch of values here. And I'm actually going to sum these up. So you can see I've got the sum function here. Put my bracket in. And add up all those expenses. Right? The next thing I'm going to do here is go and look at their income. So when we look at their income here, remember that James is seasonal. He makes $15 per hour. And I'm just going to set the spreadsheet up to calculate some of his values here. So he's $15 times however many hours he works. And so you could actually use this to calculate or to keep track of the hours that he's doing and then calculate the pay that he should get each time. The deductions that are going to happen, it's 25%. Well, let's not forget our equal sign again. 25% of his pay. And finally, his net pay, we know is going to be his gross pay. So I'll put my equal sign again, click on this cell, subtract away the deductions, and we should end up with his net pay. And then you can see we've got zeros all here right now. And of course, he's worked 0 hours, so the deductions are going to be 0, and his net pay is going to be 0. But as soon as I highlight all of them and drag down, the spreadsheet automatically fills in for me. And that's the power of the spreadsheet. I don't have to do all these calculations over and over again. Okay, and let's get some totals down here. So again, I'm just going to use the sum button. Picks the right ones. Beautiful. Drag it across here. And we've got some values. Now I'm going to create these ones. I'm going to put as money, but I know that the hours are not money, so I don't need to change the cell. Okay, now let's look at Cynthia's. So she makes a salary, so she gets paid a certain amount each year. So what we have to do is we just have to take this money and divide it into the 12 equal months. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put an equal sign, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this cell right here and just divide it by 12. Okay. And I can see that it's $5,000 here. Now I'm going to make a slight change to this formula because I don't want the formula to actually change where it's taking the value from. So I'm just going to put little dollar signs in here. What that does is it just tells us to keep H4 as the cell we're using for all these calculations. So when I drag down, I'll get 5,000 everywhere. And you can see that it remains as the H4 cell that we're using. If I didn't put the dollar signs, the formula would actually change each time. And I don't want that. Okay, we know the deductions are 30%, so I'm going to take 30% of this value over here. Whoops. Let's try that again. Equals 30 times this value here. Perfect. And I'll drag down there. Alright. And finally, the net pay equals sign, and we're going to subtract the salary minus the deductions. When we drag down, we can see her net pay is actually $3,500. And I'll get some sums here. Oh. Now you can see the formula went a little too far. I don't want that. I want these ones. I tried to include the 60,000. I don't want that. So I'll just use the mouse to drag that over. And of course, there's the $60,000. We knew that. But we can see that her deductions are actually $18,000. And so she's actually only bringing home $42,000. And again, let's just put this income information into our final budget now. So the first thing we have is James's income. So let's just set up a link here so that we can go back to his income. We're going to take his net pay, and we're just going to divide that by 12 so we can get a monthly amount here. Okay, so he's bringing in about $712 each month. Cynthia, on the other hand, we can already see what she's bringing in. It's $3,500. Again, I'm just going to link to her total net pay, go up to the formula window here, and just divide by 12. So we get a monthly amount. Right, and we already knew that was $3,500. So their total income, do the sum here of those two cells. Right, and so when we look at their final expenses, we're going to take their total income and subtract away their total expenses and get a nice net income for them. So overall, they should be bringing in about $2,145 more than they're actually spending. So budget is going to be something that's very important for James and Cynthia. But because we've made some nice links in here, we can go back and we can say, you know what? Maybe they want to spend a little bit more on their mortgage. So instead of $225 each month, maybe they're going to try and pay about $325 each week. Sorry, that was each week. Drag that down and just change their expenses and see how things work out. Because maybe they want to pay off their mortgage a little bit faster and try to make some payments of a little bit more. So hopefully our budget has changed, and yep, you can see that the mortgage is no longer $975. It is a little bit more that they're spending, right? But you can see that their net income is still above zero. So they still have money for savings. And the important part is they're going to need this extra money because these aren't the only things that they're spending money on. They also need to spend money on food, clothing, and other necessities. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Have fun with the rest of your ISU.